watch me maintain, wind up, watch me maintain, struggle still.
Welcome everyone to the first episode where we're gonna have a guest on. I'm Rudy.
I'm Rudy G.
And this is the Playing Kidz podcast.
Documentary, as some might say.
Yes. Actually, DocuCast.
DocuCast.
Yeah, DocuCast.
It's innovative, you know?
It's innovative. Yeah, you gotta do your own twist.
Innovation that excites, bro.
Exactly. So, Rudy, kick us off with who our first guest is.
Yeah, so our first guest is going to be Coach Logue. And basically, he was one of my high school coaches back in Sanger. He was the defensive coordinator. He was doing his thing, and he was someone who really made me feel like he had a big impact on me and kind of helped me realize my potential. And I was like, man, he could be the perfect person to talk to and kind of to help you guys also understand his journey and his potential. So right now, he's actually the Selma head coach, and he's won a couple of championships. And yeah.
All right. Start recording.
Yeah.
Make sure. It's recording.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, Coach Lowe, you're our first interview, man.
All right.
Our first interview, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Actually, I want to real quick, just like talk about real quick, like, you know, like I was telling you, when we were on the phone, that like the purpose of what we're doing is kind of to talk about like the journey and like different experiences coming up, and basically like show gratitude along the way, you know what I mean, and kind of show that, you know, like I was saying, that big things can happen from small places, and you know, that kind of thing or whatever. So just to kind of, you know, that way we know where we're coming from or whatever. But like something I don't know about you, Coach, too, that I never knew was like basically like where you grew up.
Yeah.
Because you were kind of mentioning that, you know, you didn't move too far. Yeah, you didn't move too far. And
I was kind of thinking about it this morning too, because I never really considered, but it was just what I knew, like that I was from a small town. I was literally thinking about it because we were going to talk, and I was like, I'm from a small town too, like, you know, and it's up kind of in the mountains, more a town called Grass Valley.
I've not heard of that.
Yeah, so
that's how you know it's a small town.
And when anyone asks where am I from, I say, north of Sacramento, you know, because most people have never heard of it since I moved down here. So there was 2 high schools in our town, but it was still very, very small. Like I was trying to, like I said again, thinking this morning, like our grocery stores. Like I actually lived in a even smaller little community called Alta Sierra, and like we didn't have like a Save Mart or a Vons, or like we had like the Alta Sierra market, you know, and we would go in there and get stuff, and that was just my norm. And we, you know, as kids, we were talking to, and I talk to all my coaches now, like, you know, we rode our bikes everywhere. We used to just get on the bikes and ride down to the store, and you know, the high school was about 15 minutes away.
Your friends' pegs or whatever.
Yeah, you know, well, no, we all had our own bikes, but you know, it just it's funny when you think about it. You know, like I was kind of caught off guard this morning. I never thought of myself as coming from small towns, and that's probably why I've been so attracted to places like Sanger and Selma and
felt like home
and stuff like that. Yeah, I enjoy the atmosphere more. I've never been, you know, after I was done playing high school football, I got a scholarship and I went to Sac State and played, and obviously that's more of a bigger city, and you know, it never seemed as big as it probably is to me, but you know, I've never been a big fan of going to places like LA, or I've never been to, I don't think I've ever been farther than Texas, but that was just playing football. Like I've never been to New York. I've never been to even places that are highly populated but more on top of each other. I mean, San Francisco, but you know, so I'm just kind of a small town guy, I guess, which I didn't even realize born, you know, where I was born, that's how I was. So it's just kind of.
Yeah, usually, you know, when you have to describe, like I always said, like when I was in school in San Diego, I was like, I'm from like Fresno. You know? I was like, Reedley, they wouldn't know.
Yes, exactly.
No one knows what that is.
And that's right. Like when we go to Passington, we go play and try to go play, you know, the kids. And again, talking about the small town deal, and you probably remember in Shadan, I thought this was one of the greatest things he ever did was our out of town trips where you take the team and we go play in a passing tournament in San Diego. And I never realized till I went to Sanger, where I'm from is a smaller town, but I think there's definitely a little bit more, I think affluent is the correct word, there's more money.
Right.
But I feel like some of our kids, we'd go on the beach was like being at Disneyland. Like I think some of the kids from some of these small towns here, even though it's a lot closer to the valley, have never even been to the beach.
Yeah.
Except Reedley Beach.
Yes.
Except for Reedley.
You know, so it's, it's just one of those things that it's, you know, it was, I forgot what I was, now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
We were talking about going over there, but I forgot my point.
But it's something special. It's something
yeah.
special, like even like, you know, just being in a small town,
Yeah.
actually going just to the beach, something
Yeah,
as small as that.
because some of these kids have never got to experience it. And it's the same thing here. Now I try to kind of do that same thing we did when I was at Sanger, and
For sure.
make sure we give these guys the opportunity to go see some of that stuff, because some of them not only come from homes where they don't have a lot of money, they don't have a lot know, but they probably don't get to travel or go see some of those things.
And they get with all their friends.
Yeah,
They get to
yeah. Our kids
stick around.
last year we were. It was hilarious. Our bunch of our kids, I thought they'd be walking around trying to talk to girls. They're all out there with the football, playing tackle football on the beach, you know. And it's like, and it was even like, you know how there's kind of the groups on the team, and there's the cool kids and the kind of more quiet guys, but even the guys who, you know, I would think they think they're hot shit, and the cool, what I would say the cool guys, I call them that, you know. They were out there playing football instead of trying to chase girls around and stuff. I couldn't believe it, but you know, it's just a different experience for them, you know. And so,
Now, how did you get into football? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, my dad, I'm kind of like the small town thing. I'm from a football family. My dad was a high school teacher and he was my head football coach.
Okay.
He played obviously all growing up. He actually got a very short stint with the Rams, which he's always thrown in my face. You know, at least I got a
That's crazy.
But anyway, so I just grew up in a family with, you know, my dad as a football coach, and I fell in love with it at a young age. And
Right.
Okay. So you've been playing since like Pee-wees.
yeah, I mean, I've been on the sideline running around in gear since I was, you know, probably 2-3 years old, and started playing, I think, whenever I was allowed to, 7 or 8, I think, or something. So.
Did you feel like you wanted to be a coach like initially, or did it just kind of like?
I feel like deep down I kind of always knew that I would fall back on that. You know, obviously I wanted to try to play, you know, professional, but I was realistic with, you know, understanding how difficult that is.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I did really good in school at Sac State while I was there, and I went through the kinesiology program, and I kind of, you know, at first was like, oh, you know, I knew I wanted to be involved with sports, so I didn't know if like maybe being an athletic trainer or physical therapist, but then I just, you know, one of my big things was the way I grew up. I was always like, we weren't rich by any means or have a lot of money, but we had a good quality of life, and so I was just like, you know, I'm just gonna go get my teaching credential, and you know, so my school was paid for, and I got to do that, and you know, I thought I did it pretty quick while playing 4 years of football too, so I've always been proud of myself for that. You know, that I think I had my teaching credential and all that in like 5.5 years, you know, so to me that's not bad.
So you were balancing it pretty nice.
Yeah, I was teaching at 23. I got my first job over there in Sanger at 23, so.
Awesome. Wait, how did you end up in Sanger?
That's a funny story. So a couple of guys we had a couple guys on our team at Sac State from Sanger.
Okay.
And one of them was one of my good buddies, and we'd hang out, and his sister came up to visit one time, and we kind of hit it off and started dating, and there was like...
Did you kind of have to hide it up first? Or
No. You know, a lot of times guys don't want, you know,
Their
like
friends
their
dating
friends to date their sister, but if you know your friend's a good dude,
That's
wouldn't
true.
you rather be with a good guy?
That's true. That's true. At least you know this.
Yeah,
person.
you know?
That is a good point.
And I'm sure if I was not a good dude, he probably would have not kind of promoted it. But
okay, so he endorsed it.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and up there at the time, like no one was hiring PE teachers in the early 2000s. It was like it was kind of hot, you know. And so there was an opening at Sanger, and her mom knew of the opening, and I was like, well, I might as well apply, you know, whatever. And that day when I was down in the interview and they offered me the job, I was like, okay, moving down to Sanger. So I think the next weekend came home, loaded up my truck, and I literally drove straight from Sacramento with my truck full of all my stuff, moving to our first practice over at Sanger.
It's a beautiful thing when you can move your whole life in like one trip. That's like the best feeling.
That's like us, man. We're like, you know, moving from Sanger and then Reedley, packed our bags to college, just stuff everything in your car.
Yeah, and just get there.
Yeah, it's not like that once you settle down and have kids. I've moved a couple times now since then, and it's not as easy.
Yeah,
For sure. Do you feel like, so Do you feel like when you were in Sanger, were you there for like a long time?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you feel like you were really part of like the community when it was like?
Yeah, I it's funny because I don't know what it. I would say Sanger's football community or Sanger's community is a lot more built around football, as you playing there know, and you being from Reedley probably know. And I'm getting a little bit ahead, but I don't think athletics, especially football in Selma, there's so as much tied to the community.
Right.
Yeah.
And with Shadan, the head coach in Sanger, he was like
He was a legend.
celebrity.
Yeah.
You
He was
know?
a celebrity, yeah.
And just from always being with him, you got to know a lot of people.
Everyone else, right?
You know, and I did live in Sanger when I taught there, like the first at least probably 6 years. Maybe maybe all 8. But I lived because I did buy my own house. Sorry, I'm thinking back now.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived, and probably 6 out of 8 years I lived in Sanger. So I knew a lot more people. I had more ties, and here I don't live in Selma, and me being the head coach, it's not like before. I even though I was an assistant, I felt like I knew more people around the community because I was around Shadan,
Right.
And I'm the head coach, and I'm not in the community as much,
right?
Yeah.
which it's hard, and I always say I need to do a better job, and people are probably like, sure, you always say that, but you don't.
Yeah.
But I got 2 little kids, and we live out there, and
Other
it's just
things going on.
there's a lot. Life changes when you throw kids in the mix, and but to answer your question, I mean over there I felt very tight with the community.
Yeah.
Here again, I do, but not.
As-
I just don't have as many connections.
Right,
yeah.
So
And like what you said at first, and that's kind of what my cousin brought up too, is like in Sanger I feel like it's crazy because you kind of like it's really the culture is around football.
Yeah.
Like everyone, everyone kind of just joins together every Friday night and kind of comes together during football season. I remember when I was like in 6th grade, we were able to go on the field, and I remember seeing the varsity players, and I was like, that's kind of what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what helps also, like, people aspire to be, like, in a small community, they're like, okay, this is, like, what I want. This is, like, what I aspire to be, like, when you're little.
Yeah. That's why culture's so important, because that's what drives
The
people.
culture, yeah.
I mean I've heard so many ex-players tell me like, or even when they're in high school, like when we see the little kids, they're like, oh, that used to be
That
me.
used to be me.
Like that. and you don't realize it, like, I don't think until you get a little older in high school, maybe even like late junior, senior year, that like those little kids idolize you, like, and it's cool, especially when you're coming from a small town, because they know you and they see you at Walmart and they see you places. It's like, hey, that's number 22.
Yeah, and one thing I realized from Rudy, from what he told me, it's like, you grow up playing against each other, and then you all unite in middle school.
Yeah.
And then everyone just kind of carries on.
Yeah. And I think the big thing, too, is, like, it's crazy because a lot of other towns don't have, like, tackle football elementary.
Yeah.
So I was playing tackle football for my elementary school.
And that's what,
In
see,
fifth
when
and
I
sixth
grew up, it
grade.
wasn't like that either. We had, like, my high school was the Bruins, and the other high school was the Nevada Union Gold Miners, or just Miners, I don't remember. So we had a junior Bruins and a junior Miners.
Right.
I always tripped out when I came to Sanger, too, and it was like, they actually have, like, a middle, or a elementary school team? Like, and you see them out there playing, and like you said, then they all play each other growing up, and then they come together, and it's pretty cool. And it's similar to that here. I don't think they have, the elementary schools don't have teams here,
Right.
but there's a couple different associations, which there's been some issues, with our kids, your kids, this type of stuff. And then it's still when they get to 7th and 8th grade, there's still some they call it the bandits, and then there's the middle school. So ours still don't all come together in the middle school. They don't all come together till freshman year, which to me is kind of, it's I don't really like it. I get some people like it because it does give some kids more opportunity to play, where if you're not one of the top best 11, you're not going to play. So then maybe at least you get a chance to play. But what thing that drives me crazy is when I get some of my freshman football players in a class, they're out there playing, and a kid will drop the ball, and someone will tell them, oh, that's because you're a bandit, or that's because you're from the middle school, So it's like they already have this built in, like they're against each other, instead of,
The unity.
Then
coming in
yeah.
It's
together.
like, I understand. So maybe I was Sanger. There needs to be a unified vision that at the end of the day, you guys are going to be teammates.
Yeah.
And you guys have a common
Exactly,
goal.
and that's what I used to tell them. We're all Bears now.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
Bears. Like,
Get rid
you know,
of
but I
the
think if you at least start in middle school coming together, you kind of
Yeah.
weed some of that out because
Yeah.
they're, you know, that age where they,
Yeah.
you know. But once you get in middle school, then that's when really, you know, kids
And
start.
humans
going
are
at each other.
tribal, man.
Yeah.
We're just tribal in nature.
Yeah.
But let me go back a little bit to the small town thing, just because, you know, like Rudy said, being from a small town, there's something special about playing small town football.
Oh, yeah.
So just kind of want you to talk a little bit about that. I mean, Sanger specifically, but just being from a small town and then.
Like yourself too. Like
Yeah.
when you were in high school playing football, did you feel like the small town vibe, like of actual
like a pride,
of like a
maybe?
pride of like, you know, this is like you're representing your small town.
In my high school, and again, I just thinking back on it, yes, but
Yeah.
at the time, I don't know
You
if I
didn't- right.
I felt that
Right.
because ours wasn't like where you see high school football in Texas, which may not be small town,
Yeah.
or like again talking about Sanger, where like the town shuts down and that's what
Right.
everyone does on Friday night. I wouldn't
Right.
say my high school was like that.
Yeah.
It was very special, you know. It was the same thing like we talked about. I remember because I was the ball boy, and like, you know, just I idolized those guys.
Yeah.
You know, and like how we were talking those little kids looking up, like that's all I ever wanted to be, was be one of those players out there on that field. And you know, I feel like again here it's closer to Sanger in my opinion than what my high school was. Especially if we get late in the season and we're winning. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like the whole town's here.
Right.
But it doesn't start no matter what from like the very first game that everyone's just shutting down and coming.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but it's you definitely feel it, like how you said. There's not an manual. There's no one. I mean, everyone from this town is playing high school football on this team, and you can definitely feel that. And I
Yeah.
think that's super. You know, it's super special. There's nothing like it. You know, because you hear about, you know, just talk Clovis for example. You know how those guys. I mean, there's kids going from live here, go to Clovis West, live here, go to Clovis North, and
Yeah.
and you know, and it's just there's just something special
And
about.
also people moving there just to go to school there.
You know, and I love that idea, like we were talking about earlier, of you grow up going to elementary school, playing whatever age you guys start playing, and when you're in a small town like this, you just grow up and you do it together the whole way through, and by the time you get to high school, you're the big show, but you played with all those guys, and there's just that special bond.
Yeah.
And again, kind of going back now that I'm reflecting as we're talking about like my high school, I always tell people, like, I played college football. It was a blast, some of the best times of my life. But if I had to play one football game again, it would be going back and playing high school. And it's for that reason of just
Yeah.
playing with those guys that you were so close with
Right.
and grew up with. And
Yeah.
you know, to me, that's, you know,
Like
I don't know if it would be like that
If
if it was some big school, you know, like I'm saying about college. Like there were so many different guys and so many guys from all over, and I had a couple close friends, but it wasn't like that tight knit group
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
all the way up. You know,
Yeah,
what I mean?
and we were saying how it was crazy. So a lot of times when we played the Fresno schools, I'm sure Sanger was the same, especially when we were, you know, during our good season. It's like our away side had more people than
Yeah.
Fresno's
Yeah.
home side,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
And then plus our band and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Friday Night Lights are definitely
Oh,
special.
Reedley's band, something else too.
Yeah. Hopefully, I wish our football team. We had Coach Spore that always talks shit about that.
Yeah,
Um,
we used to make some jokes for sure. I don't want to say too much, but
No, it's all good, man. But yeah, it was something special. And then, you know, like Reedley wasn't like Sanger, like you said, it's kind of hard to compare
Yeah.
to that because literally the community's built around football.
Yeah.
But Coach Garza specifically, I don't know
Oh,
if you
yeah.
remember him.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
but man,
Oh, yeah.
he built the team from literally like the
yeah,
ashes.
I don't know if he was there 1 year or 2 years when I first got there. I met Coach Garza, and then I think from there he went to Sunnyside,
Yes.
and then Central.
And then Central.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
so-
obviously we all know the
Yeah.
tragedy of, you know, him getting sick and all that, so that
Yeah.
sucks. But yeah, no, he did a, you know, great job everywhere.
Everywhere he went, man, and like he packed the stadium, and dude, the community was proud. You
Yeah.
know, like he he put the community on his shoulders.
Yeah.
The amount of work, the shit that he had put up with, like with us.
Yeah.
Like I remember one time he caught us bitching, and we were driving, and we were about to go to Carl's Jr. across the street, and we see him drive past. And this is during like, cause it was like testing, so it's like the classes were like 30 minutes. We're like, yeah, we'll ditch, you know. He's passing by. We make eye contact with him. I can't run at this point because he saw us. Right? He's like right before us. And I turn around and I was just like, shit. He pulls over. And you already know. So we walk up to his car. My buddy goes to his like passenger window. He's like, what's up, coach? He's just like, get in. Takes us to the wrestling room. He's like, all right, go get dressed in your gym stuff. I think he makes us do like 300 or 400 burpees. My friend's puking out of his mind. It's a good time. But yeah, man, he I still carry a lot of the work ethic and you know all the workouts and stuff like to this day. You know, I'm like the amount that I learned from him and from football in general has just been insane.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of when we talked the other day. You talked about, and I agree that like there's so much more that you learn from football besides just football. You know, the life lessons and the discipline and all those things. You know, and I don't think a lot of people say that and a lot of people hear it, but I don't think unless you've gone through it, you really know.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I've heard so many people from Sanger too. We have a lot of guys go to the military from Sanger when I was there, and they would always come back and be like, it's not that hard. Like, you guys prepared us pretty, you know what I mean? Like, they just that mental toughness of whatever you throw in front of me, it may suck, but I'm going to find a way to get through it, you know? And that's...
Especially when you have a group of guys that you can BS with, you know, through all the...
And MF the coaches.
Exactly.
It happened to me in college, too. I mean, I remember... Are we able to cuss on this thing or not?
Yeah.
I just remember, like, we got a new coach, and they were pretty much trying to weed a bunch of guys out, and it was just like, at some point in your mind, you're like, you know what, fuck these guys. Like, you know, like, you're not going to break me, you know? Like,
exactly.
fuck that. I'll show you, you know? And it's just, it's that mindset.
It helps you grow.
That doesn't really have anything to do with small town, I don't think, but I just think football in general kind of teaches you that, you know, when you have coaches that push you to those limits and do those things, you know. And
I definitely felt like, for me, I didn't see my potential at all. And then it was kind of like the coaches, like you and other coaches that were like, you guys kind of saw my potential a little bit more before I did. And it was always like, you know, I kind of underestimated myself. And but then you guys were like, you know, Rudy, you know how big you are, bro? Like, you know, different kinds of things like that. And I'm like, and then you just kind of grow into it because there's different coaches that help push you and just kind of help you realize like what you're actually capable of, and that helps you with the future too, because you're like, you know what, I can do these things that that
just
I might
that
not
mental
think.
state, you know. It's always like that, you know. You get out of that victim mode, feeling sorry for yourself, and it's like, no, I gotta put in the work. And you see it freshman year to senior year, the difference.
It's crazy.
Know? Sometimes you can suck freshman year.
Oh yeah.
And then
it happens I see it. I mean, every year when you're coaching, you see it every year. You get guys who, you know, whether it's a guy who's never played football before, and it's like, oh, this guy's, he's not going to have any chance. And he comes out and it's like, wow, that kid's, you know, one of our starting corners last year. Yeah. He had played football before, but he was like very raw. I think maybe 1 or 2 years. And I didn't think he had any chance, and he ended up being our starting corner. And you see guys like you're saying that just so immature and just don't know how to act, ineligible, just get caught smoking weed, doing all these things, and then by the time they're the junior, they've grown up a lot, and they've learned, you know, from their mistakes, and you know, they become an important part of your team. I mean, you do have guys who don't learn from their lessons, and they were maybe really good as a freshman, and by the time they're junior, senior, you've never seen them.
Like, always get those guys,
you know,
man.
but
it's a shame.
There's all aspects of it, you know, and it's pretty. It's pretty interesting to see those things, you know, and when you're coaching, you see
all the growth.
Well, and you've been through like 4 years.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You can see a whole cycle.
So it's, and that's one thing I tell like our parents and our players, like during the summer, because you know it's a grind and you can't really go on vacation. You get 2 weeks, and I tell them, hey, look, you gotta only do it for 4 years, you know. I chose to be a coach, which is my fault. I have to do this my whole life. You know, just, you can suck it up for 4 years and go on vacation during your 2 weeks when you're allowed to go on vacation, and then you need to be here for football.
Let's talk about your championship seasons.
Okay.
Okay, what made those special? Like, are they special, or maybe there was just a little bit of luck? Were there certain players? Was it a group thing?
A little bit of all that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
It's hard to put like different. It's not a science.
Any level you talk about, to win a championship, there has to be a little bit of all that. You have to have good players. You have to have a little bit of luck in the fact that you got to stay healthy. I mean, especially this is one thing I love about small school football is guys playing both ways.
Right.
Yeah.
I watch, higher level football, and a guy makes a 10-yard run and he's tapping his head and he needs a break, and we got 8-9 guys that are all playing both ways,
Right.
And to get back to your main question, in my first year here was 2015. We had a lot of talented players, but they just didn't know how to win. We won. We ended up winning 8 games, counting one playoff game. So we went 7-3 in the regular season, but it was the first time we beat Kingsburg in a long time, who was Selma's big rival.
Sorry, let me pause you real quick. So, when was your first championship?
16.
16.
Yeah.
As here in Selma or in Sanger?
Selma. I've never won one anywhere else as a
won
player or a coach. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So yeah, I'm kind of leading you into 16. So we had a really good group. They just weren't used to winning, but we beat Kingsburg, which was big for the community and for us, and won one playoff game, which was the first time we'd done that in a while, and then we lost to Washington Union in the playoffs. The following year, I mean, I just had a group of it was kind of like what my team would be like this year. A bunch of those, almost all of them back. I had my first year, a lot of them were juniors. They were up, a lot of them played varsity football sophomores before I got here.
Okay.
So they at least had varsity experience, but they just didn't have
the winning experience.
Yeah.
And so they just,
What does that mean? A winning experience? Like, is that an attitude?
It's all of it. To me, it's it has to do with coaching. It has to do with preparation. It has to do with the right mindset. I talk to my guys all the time. I bring up, do the little things right. If you can do the little things right, big things will take care of themselves. And to me, little things are being on time.
Right.
Knowing your basic playbook stuff.
Right.
It covers a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's very broad, but to me, it's like,
Yeah.
be here, be on time, be coachable, do what you're supposed to do, and you'll be successful.
I think that's the hard part, though. It's usually those small things that actually matter, and just doing them every day and being consistent. But how do you get people to see that when they have?
And it's hard. I'm telling you, I say it almost every day, and you get kids who still, I didn't set my alarm, and I didn't do this, and one of the biggest examples, it's funny because we keep getting off track, but it's good. It's good. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
One of the biggest examples I use of that is that year when I told you we were 4-6. We were terrible. We have a rule. It's a quiet bus ride on the way to games. There's no laughing. There's no joking. Focus on what you need to do. If you want to put headphones on, listen to music, be quiet. I don't want to hear laughing and joking. I had to turn around and tell my team, which I never have to do this, at least 3 times in the parking lot before we left. Shut up.
Right.
Like, to me, that's a little thing. Just be quiet on the bus. I've asked you. That's something we've done for 4 years since I've been here.
Yeah.
You all know that. And really, I have to say, before we even lost the parking lot, we didn't even make it down to the stoplight.
Yeah.
So that's not a winning mindset. If you can't do that right, if you can't follow that simple instruction, I guess to me that's little things is follow simple instructions. I give you a simple instruction, follow it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
This is your first year, or which year is that?
that was about my 4th year. That's what I'm saying. I'd already been here 4 years. We'd won a championship.
Okay.
And then the
They
following
should
year,
have known this already.
Yeah.
then the following year we had a good team. We went 8-2, but we had some things happen, and we had a bye, and we got bounced at home in the first round of the playoffs, which shouldn't happen, but it does.
It does. It happens.
And then the following year we were really bad. We ended up 4-6, and I wonder why.
Yeah.
Because we had guys, do it just so many things, that
Right.
why you don't win football games.
Right.
Guys, I make them a scouting report every week. Hey, did you look at your scouting report? No.
Yeah.
Like what?
So do you look at that? I know it's like you said, it's a combination of things. Do you look at that season and be like, well, if I would have done this, it would have been better? Like,
Yeah, I do. I think as a good coach, you have to blame yourself a little bit.
Right.
I mean, yes, they should have done certain things, but obviously they're doing it for a reason. I must have, at some point, laxed off or whatever the word is, you know, on them on something to where they thought it was okay. Or maybe, one thing I said is I think we just got, we were winning a lot of games.
A little complacent.
We were 13-0, then we were 8-2 and we lost, and then we came back. Yeah, like, and that's one thing I try to tell my guys all the time. Like you like we said, you have to work. Even if you think you're going to be good, you still got to put the work in to achieve what you want to achieve. And you know, but no, yeah, I couldn't tell you what specifically, but I'm always the type of person who I'm going to look at me first. What did I do? You know, that obviously let this go on. You know, but
what do you think keeps people from getting that kind of that like the winning, the overconfident winning kind of like? How do you think people are? What do you think is a good way of kind of like self-reflecting and saying like we have to. This is a new season, basically. We're back at square one. We haven't won a game. We haven't proved anything yet this year. You know.
So if I get what you're asking, like, how does that happen to some people?
How does that happen? But also, like,
how do you stay humble? Man?
How do you stay humble? Like, how would you? Even you as a coach, like you as a coach, how do you do it?
Specifically, because I'm competitive as hell.
Yeah.
And I want to win at like everything I do. Like if me and you are like playing thumb war, I want to kick your ass. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so I know I got to put the work in. I think some people just get complacent with, you know what, I'm pretty happy with what we've done, and you kind of get used to it, and you know. But I think I'm different. I'm a football coach, and like that's what I do. You know, and my job is to motivate high school kids. So like to want to play and practice every day, and I feel like I do a pretty good job of it, but I just think sometimes, you know, and maybe it's when you have a group of kids a long time, they start hearing the same stuff because, you know, as coaches, I mean, I can come up with some new plays and you can go to coaching clinics and learn a lot of that stuff, but I don't, like, no one teaches you, like, motivational speeches, and kids see right through when it's fake bullshit, you know, so, you know, it's like, I don't know, maybe they were sick of hearing me tell them the same stuff, you know, and I don't know, but I feel like a lot of it just has to come from people within having a hunger to succeed and to win, you know, like
self-motivation.
Yeah, like we have like that group that came back in 16 where we started this conversation, and my team last year, and them going into next year, like they could very easily, and it's all screwed up because of COVID and you know everything going on, but they were a hungry group, even though they won a section title last year, and I know they were disappointed we didn't win a state title, but still, I mean, you know, we accomplished what our main goal for the season was. Yeah. You know, and
also, when was the last time Selma's won a championship?
Before the one in 16, I think it was like
somewhere up here.
It was not.
We gotta look in the archives.
It was like either 50s or 60s, I believe, something like that, maybe 70s. But
so that was huge.
Yeah, I mean, it'd been a long time, you know, so.
I mean, that's something to be proud of, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm proud of that. I'm proud to finally just get one myself. Like I never won one as a player, never won one as a coach. At Sac State, we struggled every year I was there, and you know, it becomes as much as you have to, you know, when you're winning, as hard as it is to maintain the right attitude to keep winning. When you're losing, it's like you could see some guys were just okay with it, you know, and it's like, oh, this is just kind of what we do, and it's, you know, that's hard too.
I remember my sophomore year at Sanger was I think it was 2011, 2012ish. I remember that was like a year we could have been good. It's just kind of like random thought that you bring up, but like, you know, I wasn't starting until like mid-season, and I remember we were losing, and I told Matt, I told Estrada, I was like, I don't really care if I start right now. I kind of just want to win some games. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to win. You know? And it was going from freshman year, we were really good. We lost one game or whatever. And then I was like, man, I kind of just want to win. Yeah. And then, not that me starting caused us to win, but you know, I got put in and we just started doing better. I'm just saying. But yeah, it's a mindset thing too. Because it was either that mindset of like, I just kind of want to win, like I'm trying to win, or it was like, you know, like
as long as I do good, or you know, and that's one thing I can't stand. I hear kids all the time, like especially like lower, like freshmen and JV kids, I'll be like, oh, how'd you guys do? Well, I did this, blah blah blah, or I didn't get to play. The guys got their asses kicked, or the coaches didn't play me. So you know, it's like, oh, well, you're a part of the team. I'm asking how the team did. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and their first answer is always about themselves or an excuse of why they don't care what happened. And, you know, like, it's just, stuff like that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
The individual, because, it's a team.
You're never going to be good when you have people on your team with that mindset. I mean, everyone should want to do good individually, but not above the, you know, the team.
Yeah.
Because you can't win games without. You can't win games by yourself.
So. Yeah, you need a team, man. You need a team.
Do you feel like your winning seasons, like you had more of a team? Because I felt like for when we went to the championships in 2012 and we lost against Garces, though, I feel like we might have not had any star players in Sanger, but we had a pretty solid team.
Yeah, no,
you know
that's
what I mean?
That's exact. I mean, it's, you know, obviously Sanger, Reilly, Selma, the demographics are very similar. You know, we don't have superstar athletes. We don't get 6'5", 300-pound linemen. We don't get very many guys running. You know, we're lucky if we get a guy running a 4.6, you know, type deal. So it's, you know, that's what it's all about. You know, we do have some pretty good little players, and most of them play both ways, and they play really hard, and they, you know, you hear them anytime we have a good team, and a newspaper person or anyone interviews them, they always talk about, oh, we're a family, we're brothers.
Exactly.
You know?
They understand that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of teams where you hear people say that, and then there's teams where when they say it, you believe it, and you know, because
that's true.
Especially when you're coaching them, you know, okay, you're saying this guy's your brother, yet you're MFing him here or doing something else, you know, but you know, you can tell when there's the groups that really are tight and really together, and
they walk the walk.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, basically just getting rid of the excuses. It's like, okay, even if it's not your fault, like, take responsibility, because you're the only one that can control what you can control. And I think that's a huge thing that I see, like, when I went to college, I was living in San Francisco for a while, and it's like, I don't know, it's like this culture of, like, blaming other people for your problems, and it's making people really unhappy. So part of the podcast is just like, hey, like, you know, we're not all dealt, like, we're all dealt different cards in life, you know, but, like, play them the best you can, and, like, and you're gonna see a difference, you know, like, put in the work, like,
you can make almost any hand a winning hand.
Yeah.
If you put in the work and you play them right.
I agree 100%.
And so, like, it's the gratitude of, like, you know, it's like, hey, you're here and you have the opportunity to pursue what you want because your parents, like, in our case, our grandparents that came from Mexico, or parents, like, we could have been born in Mexico, or we could have been, like, you know, just one little, like,
one generation out
because they decided to make a decision that got us here. And now, who are we to complain?
Yeah.
And we have everything at the tips of our fingers here, you know?
And then sometimes we feel like, it might feel like we don't have too much, but then really we have, like, a lot, like, compared to...
And that's the gratitude part.
Yeah.
Take a step back, look at how far you've come, and the decisions, and look at the decisions that you've been making, and the right ones get you to the right place, right?
No, I heard, I was watching ESPN or something, someone said, there was some quote almost just like that, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, don't focus... I think it was pretty much, don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you do have. You know,
exactly.
Like, same, you know, it's the same exact thing you guys are talking about. It's, you know, you might think you got the worst hand and, you know, you get something really bad shit happen to you, but I'm sure there's somebody around that's had something worse, you know, and, you know, as long as you're still breathing, you still got a chance to fight and do, you know, and try to do the things that you want to do. And it's, you know, it's easier for some people than others. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, I didn't have very many struggles ever growing up. I had both parents, both had good jobs. They cared about us. They took us everywhere. You know, took us to play sports.
That's one of the biggest things. It's like, if you have both parents, like, you're winning. So
and that's, you know, and I don't know if it's a small town thing. I don't think it's so much a small town thing as maybe. I don't know what you guys would maybe say, like, for Sanger and for Selma. Selma's for sure. I used to think things were kind of rough in Sanger for a lot of our kids, from stories and things I would hear, and money-wise and family-wise. And since I've came to Selma, I think it's a lot worse. I mean, I have guys that tell me, oh, it's just me and my mom at home, and I'm helping, you know, with my 2 baby brothers and sisters, and just stories that I'm like, oh wow, I have no idea what that's even like, you know. And so you when I first came here too, you know, I get some of that. I'm like, oh, these guys are just making stuff up, you know, so they don't have to come to practice. And the more and more I was here, the longer I was here, I'm like, man, we got a lot of kids who really don't have a lot, you know. And again, that's why I like to try to give them, you know, I'm not the nicest guy at times. You know, I'm kind of a hard ass coach, but I like, you know, I try to give them as much experience, like, you know, like the trips, and just have fun and be a part of it. And you know, I think football, you know, for some of these guys is like everything, because that's where their friends are. Some of them, us coaches, may be their only father figure, you know, and it's just like we've talked about, just you know, the life lessons. Again, it just
that was a big one for me. Like, my dad wasn't around too much growing up, but like the coaches are like I saw as the father figures, you know. And you know, that whipped me into shape too, because you make these little excuses and that, but it's like, no, there's no excuses. Again, that's just kind of hard to balance, because it's like you're sympathetic to it, but at the same time being easy.
You can't use it, and it's like you're saying, you can't use it as a crutch.
You can't use it as a crutch.
I understand, you know, I understand that situation sucks, but you should be doing everything in your power. To still succeed as best you can. Don't use it as an excuse, you know, and.
Because then you're going to get used to that and make it a habit. And, you know, again, you got to work harder than, you know, you hear stories all the time about single moms with 3 kids who are working 2 jobs, and, you know, and like, no one's helping them. You know, and so, you know, again, it sucks, but you get, you know, if you want to succeed, like we keep saying, you gotta find a way to do it. You gotta find a reason. You gotta find the path. You gotta, you know. I always use my older brother as an example, because like single mom, like parents, you know, dad wasn't around, like he was involved in gangs in high school, you know, became a dad at 18, and that's when he decided to turn around, because he found his like why, right? So he wanted a better life for his kid. He's like, well, I'm a dad now. So he started working, had some shitty jobs. Now he's making way more money than me. Didn't even go, you know, finish high school. I went to college, you know, and that's cool. Like, I see that as an inspiration. That's because he decided to make that decision to like make the sacrifices and work hard and that kind of thing. So like,
and it's not always, you know, I know we push almost every kid that, hey, you got to go to college, and you know that would be great, but it's college school's not for some people. You know?
And it's way more expensive now.
And there's a lot of good jobs people can get, you know, and make a lot of money with that. There's a lot of people that don't have college degrees that make a lot more money than a lot of us, especially as teachers. You know, it's not, you know, I feel like sometimes people feel like the only path is college, and I don't want people to feel like I'm saying people shouldn't go to college, but
depends what you're
everyone's got to find their path and what drives them and makes them happy, to where they're not going to be a loser, and that they're gonna succeed, you know. So, I mean.
And I think, like you said, what makes you happy too. You
Yeah.
know, you're gonna work hard. You're gonna do what you can. So you gotta make sure that, you know, and like kind of when you were saying too about going on trips and stuff like that too. It's like, yeah, you're putting in the work. You're on the team. You're working hard, but you do need to take time to kind of just breathe and be like
enjoy it.
Enjoy it. On the way
and that's
there.
what stuff like that's, you know, why we do it. So.
For sure, coach. Well,
you got anything else? I think that was pretty solid. Right?
It's pretty solid.
Yeah, you're our first interview, so we appreciate
it's pretty great.
How'd you like it?
We're just sitting here bullshit.
For sure.
Okay.
I don't even listen to podcasts, but I feel like, you know, one of my coaches, he's always listen. He loves the one with I don't know if you've ever
Joe Rogan.
No, he listens to Joe Rogan a ton, but the lineman from the Tennessee Titans, Taylor Lewan, I think.
I'm not sure.
I haven't heard that one.
It's him and some other guy, I think. Yeah, they had their coach Mike Vrabel on there, and they're sitting, I think, even just having a beer at the one time, like just sitting there shooting the shit. And he showed me like a little bit of it the one time, but I've never really.
We were gonna bring some beers. We didn't have. We're good. Let's show the rings real quick to show the
little flex.
A little flex, yeah, a little Selma flex. Okay. We'll just. I got you. Right.
Make sure they're in focus. You know what I mean?
Focus, bro. Which one's the first one?
This is the 16. This is the last year.
So first championship ring right here. This one's from last year. So Coach Logue, thank you very much for being on the podcast. He's an awesome coach. Changes a lot of lives.
Changes lives. That's the biggest thing too.
That's
I
the
think
biggest
that
thing.
about football is like, and just being. I don't know actually about being a coach, but I was a substitute teacher for a little bit,
Oh, really?
and yeah, for like 2 years, and basically what
How'd that go?
it was there was ups and downs. You know, it was like-
Because the kids don't give a shit.
kids don't give a shit. But
But it's also one of those jobs that's so easy because as long as you just control them, like, what do you have to do? They have,
Yeah.
you know, like,
exactly.
half the time probably show a movie and just sit there and just make sure they
Just
don't
make
kill
sure they don't kill each other. Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty easy money, and I mean, over $100 a day to just
Yeah.
go sit around and not do
Yeah,
much.
and it's super flexible too.
Yeah.
So like
You can
work,
pick and choose.
you can
Yeah.
pick and choose
Yeah.
wherever you want to work. Yeah.
We're gonna get you a shirt. We just didn't have your size at
Yeah.
the time,
Okay.
so
What's
Oh,
a good
these are good
yeah,
shirts.
these
Yeah,
are
yeah.
shirts. What's a good size?
Double.
Double?
Double X.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah, you were saying XL. We were just like, we don't have an XL right now, so we'll get
No
you.
worries. Yeah,
Sure.
Do you guys want a Selma football shirt?
That would be beautiful.
That'd be awesome. I mean, we'll rock it.
What size are you?
So we're back. You know, we just had that beautiful interview with the talk. Pretty much was a conversation with Logue, and it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
I hope you guys got as much as I did. Right? That was my first time meeting Coach Logue, and he was an awesome dude. So
Yeah.
I just had fun doing it. Whether it's just chatting it up, and he's a super cool guy. I learned a lot. What else we got here? Basically to wrap it up, we just kind of want to highlight what we talked about, right? Talking about hard work, teamwork,
Mindset.
and mindset, right?
Yeah.
Doing the little things.
Those little
right?
things.
For example,
Like, you know, making your bed every morning, which is crazy because you get into routine, you get into a habit. Like,
Yeah.
I remember it was in college, I did not make my bed every morning.
exactly.
And now I do, and
Yeah. And it gets your day kickstarts your day. It's like,
Kickstarts your day.
I completed one task. You can go for a run in the morning. You can floss in the morning. It's like, all right. It's those little things that add up and go a long way.
yeah.
And it's kind of like Coach Logue says, just simple things like showing up on time, not dicking around in the bus, or,
Yeah.
because that's the mindset, right?
It's a mindset,
Focus.
yeah.
It's
It's usually not hard things. Those little things are not too hard and they go a long way.
Right, exactly. And then last but not least, right, it's always about the journey and how you show gratitude throughout the journey, just to really see how far you've come,
Yeah.
right? And for me, at least, talking about football, those coaches that throughout my life, those are like my mentors, right? All that stuff that I learned in football, the hard work, the discipline, still carries on with me to this day. And that's something I'm grateful for my coaches like Coach Garza, rest his soul, God rest his soul. He, passed away due to cancer, but learned a lot from him. He pushed me, Coach Waldron, the list goes on. But people that, that I still carry with me to this day, so.
Yeah, for me too, I've had so many coaches that have really helped me grow and identify my potential. And then also helped me realize too that, hard work pays off. You know what I mean? The harder you work during the off season, that's going to pay off on the field and on Friday nights, or depending on the grade level or whatever. But
Yeah, today, Friday nights it's different for us now. I had different goals, but at the end of the day, it's still putting in the work, setting up a game plan, mindset, and then executing.
exactly. And I think, yeah. And
Yeah, that wraps it up.